What's happening, good people? I'm a little thirsty, man. Going live is a lot of work, and by a lot of work, it's a lot of work. So I did a thing.
As soon as you start talking about me, I'm coming, pulling up a chair. Right
You're not gonna even be around by the time I get to you. So why you got that low, super low chair?
Well, I don't need to come in now, but I will.
The missus.
Hey, y'all.
She doesn't know how to work the chair.
Hey, y'all.
Apparently.
Good evening. What's shaking? Oh, gotta get a chair up.
I gotta get a chair up. You could have sacrificed that chair for your mom, B.
I need to move around. You sit in that chair. Chair.
Oh man, I'm hot. I'm legit hot.
Running around because he don't manage his time well.
Actually, we got the hater coming on to the live stream. I tried to clear out the dishwasher and clear out the sink so that she could prepare the dinner for the kids.
Which I noticed, and I thank them for it.
What's up, Paycheck? Nathan, Grant, Acres, Jay, Sharp Farmaid, Siobhan, good to see you. Finney, what's happening?
Always a Finney. I know a Finney in real life, too.
Finney the kid. Why would my power station show input but not do its charging symbol on my EcoFlow? I don't know what a charging symbol is. I only have the EcoFlow. By all means, you answer the question. You the professional. Go ahead. Have at it.
Well, first, I'm assuming that's what they mean by Finney, a woman?
I don't know. I've very rarely seen that. I would assume Finney the kid is not a woman.
He's alive.
Who said that?
At the bottom.
No, true.
I'm assuming that you mean whenever you plug something in, the symbol that lets you know that the thing is charging, whether it's a lightning bolt or the plug. That's what I was thinking.
Jewels. My wife just dropping jewels.
You know
what I mean?
You say better have.
Right. Sure. So apparently we're going to goof off a little bit instead of getting into the subject matter at hand. I don't know. What scenario is this stuff happening in? Type it out for me. But, man, we 3 whole minutes in. Oh,
are you on time?
What do you mean?
Yeah, you're late to everything. Did you mean to start at 9:10?
Yeah. I changed it because you act like you was gonna fall apart doing everything tonight.
I did not.
It's like, oh, I gotta do everything. I was sitting here like, what that mean?
I mean, I had a long day, with the kids. And, I'm still working, doing their clothes, transitioning. I have a heavy day. Motherhood, we can never clock out.
I'm gonna leave that alone. We're gonna save that for the marriage podcast.
Solar.
Yeah. So I was off grid. We gonna do a minute marker. Oh, I wanted to do a giveaway. Let's talk about that real quick. I don't know the rules. I'm figuring it out. I'm gonna give away my Ctech, which is an interesting power station. It's been used. It's not in bad condition or anything. I need to find the all right. I'm gonna give away the Ctech. It's a 500 watt-hour power station. It has some shortcomings. It cannot be charged and discharged via. It's an old one. It's one of my first power stations that I was given. The AC does not work when it's charging. It does dual charge. I'm pretty sure I still have the solar cable. It is a not proprietary. The barrel port on it is not standard. So that's a bummer. That's why I'm getting rid of it. I'm getting rid of it because the barrel connector is not standard, and that the AC doesn't work while it's charging. And it does have a little bit of a fan noise from time to time. If you dual charge it, you may hear it. It gets pretty rough, but it's 500 watt hours, and it ain't gonna cost you nothing but shipping if you want it. It has 2 wireless charging pads on the top, which I very rarely use. I don't know if they're reliable or not. It does have a light on it. It's super ugly. It's not ugly. I'm sorry. I'll take that back. It was just a weird design. This is it right here. I have a video on it. It is charged, I believe, but I'm going to burn some power out of it because you're not supposed to ship batteries charged. But you can see the wireless charging on the top. It's 110 volt. It's LFP, even though it's an older one. So me using it should have no impact on you getting power out of it. So that one must go. I'm also giving it away because I like to give away stuff to my community. This Rockpals 100 watt folding panel. It is a Anderson connector, but I am going to give away an Anderson connector that goes to like 8 millimeter and maybe 5521 and maybe some weird one. So yeah, it's 110. It's PET though. It's not ETFE. So don't hammer it or do what you want with it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure y'all are coming through pretty loud. So please stop it or I got to kick y'all out. Y'all let me know. Is the family coming through pretty loud? This microphone, I think, is omnidirectional. So it picks up everything. That never clock out is real. Whatever. Let's see. So no more details. I was using the Renogy and HQST in the window of my apartment, getting a reading of 25 watts, but my River 2 Pro was not spinning around the number. Oh, that's interesting. I'm a 29-year-old male. Yeah, I'd imagine you wasn't gonna be a woman with a name like Finny the Kid.
Well, my friend Finny is a girl. So
it ain't even her real name. Shut up.
But that's her nickname. Is Finny his real name?
But it's a username. It's a little different. You make a fair point. All right. So now we 7 minutes in and just getting started. This is terrible. This is a terrible live stream. It's fun, but it's terrible. Okay, off grid. I was off grid for about a good 5. How long were you? Never mind. Don't tell me. I was off grid for about 5 to 6 days, and it was cool. Let me tell you about how I did it. I have these what they like to call suicide cables, because they're pretty dangerous. I know, right? Isn't that crazy? They are male-to-male AC cables. I get them off of eBay. What I'll do is after the live, I'll go and put links in the description for all of this stuff that I'm talking about to the best of my ability. I may do it slowly, so y'all just bear with me and keep replaying the video and let it play for some time, right? Holla at your boy. Give me some views. I have 3 of these. That is not relevant. You only need 2. You only need 1, but one only energizes one side of your panel. Whatever side you plug this in on, that side will be energized, and the other side of your panel will not be energized. It's a lesson that I learned, not the hard way, but okay, fair enough. So I have 2 of these. I'm gonna run through all of the equipment. What I did buy, I bought a 10 gauge extension cord that's fairly short. And the reason why I bought that is to give me distance from my wall to my actual plug so that I don't have to keep plugging in and out of outlets on my wall. The one outlet that I use is downstairs near my furnace. Something on my furnace, like a thing that removes condensation or water from the line or something. I don't know what the thing is, but it's plugged into that outlet, and I use that outlet to power the right side of my panel. So that extension cord allows me to not have to go too far under this desk right here. That's originally why I got it. And it also allows me to not keep putting wear and tear on my actual outlet. I can put the wear and tear on the extension cable. So that's another reason. It is also lighted. It is also lit. So I know when so it's a safety thing, right? I go to my panel, I turn my main switch off, I turn my stove off because my stove is 240. It wouldn't work anyway. And then when I go to plug my power station dangerous male to male cable in, I can see that the end of that extension cord has no power because it's not lit. I like the lit power stations, the lighted ones. As far as my devices, I was using the Duran, which is the Duran Ener, and I was using my newly kind of brought back on Alcatel. I have a video that's going to come out sometime in the near future about the whole Alcatel situation in some capacity. These live streams are more live than my actual videos are. My videos are quite behind. Bear with me. So I'm using that one because mainly the Duran and the Alcatel have 2,000 watt hour capacities, and they have 2,000 watt inverters, and their inverters can handle some pretty decent surge. Some of my power stations have 1,800 watt inverters. Some of them have, no, none of them have. I don't have any others with 2,000 watt inverters, but they have 1,800 watt inverters, but they can't run like my dryer, and they don't necessarily run my microwave well. None of them run my microwave well. But because they can't run the dryer, I tend to not use some of my other power stations, like my All Powers R1500, my Oops 1800. And then I have some power stations that don't even have 1,800 watt inverters. So Duran, Alcatel. Those are the main two things that I was using to run the house. They have each two 300 watt panels on them, maybe two 90s in parallel, because those power stations have 60 volt input limits. I cannot put the panels in series. So 600 watts on paper, realistically, they get nowhere near that. I don't angle them perfectly. I don't have the capacity to do so, nor do I have the physical means to line them up. I think I'm saying the same thing twice, and that's okay, right? And then upstairs, my AC 200P was mainly responsible for running my fridge. I got a new fridge. My fridge died on us. I've talked about this in some capacity via shorts or something like that. We got like a French door. Is it a French door? Yeah, I think it's the French door one. It's a side by side with the freezer at the bottom, which I believe they call a French situation. They call it French because I think there's no divider. Anyway, freedom fries, right? Um, at the beginning of the live stream, when I was getting prepared, I thought about, I wish I did. I thought about opening up the live stream, like, what about Trump and Kamala? I find that hilarious. Because people are so triggered by politics. Y'all know, some of you guys know who've been around for a while. I don't mind talking about politics or religion, specifically Christianity, or what else? What are some of the hot button issues? I'll talk about all of them. I don't care. So, I have those situations set up, and I have my fridge running off of the AC 200P, which has been cool. What else? What else is involved here? Some smaller items that are like constantly needing to be running is I have a couple a la carte power stations that were running like my deep freezer and my upright freezer. And then I have the Bluetti AC60, which runs my internet. That pretty much covers a lot of what we have going on in this household. We're not a high power draw house. Most people aren't, honestly. Their base load is not a lot in most people's homes. So I did pretty good. All right, what's next? Let's see here, because I have notes. So the first lesson, the first lesson that I learned was to get your wife up out of the house. My wife was on a cruise for like a good 5-6 days. She may have been on there for 5 days, but then like travel time and stuff like that. So it may have been a good 6-7 days that she was out of the house. That made things incredibly manageable. Y'all hear me? Not having the misses around sucks, but as far as electricity, I was able to really get by um, without her around because I didn't have uh, her with the her whims. You know what I mean? Like I'm a pretty like simple guy. You know, I don't. There were times where there are times where I don't even need the house to have power. As long as the fridge has power, the internet is running, and it's light outside, I'm good. The main things that run on my house when the power is on is we got a couple wise cameras, more than a couple. We got a good 6, maybe a ceiling fan, and that's really it. And then my kids going through and turning on lights and stuff like that. But that's it. There's not much. The ceiling fans probably account for a good bit of our electricity. But I love the fact that when I go to that panel and turn that stuff off, my family does not feel the impact at all. They just life just keeps moving for them. That's a wonderful feeling. So she was up out of here, which made life a lot easier. There was only one person cooking the meals. I didn't have to worry about her pulling out the air fryer and then hopping on the microwave and then wanting to use the stove and so on and so forth. So the getting the better half up out of here, it was very useful. I touched on this. Another lesson that I learned was basically base. So your base power loads are typically relatively low. If you consider what I laid out before you guys, I'm pretty sure my power usage is probably sits at about 1 to 200 watts. And you could cover that easy with a couple solar panels. Easy. And remember, both of my situations have 600 watts of solar on them, 350 watts realistically, because of how they're angled. They get like 175 watts each. So it's not a lot. And I know that's terrible, but I have so many of them that I'm doing okay with not managing them well. But I kind of wish I had the space to manage them better. That kind of sucks. Let me see what y'all snapping and trapping about. LT smoking, what's happening? Oh, that's interesting. It got a little hot. Maybe. The only thing John S said, Trump, don't do that. Don't try and get me trapped. Oh man. Oh man. Let me see. Good times. What's happening? Now I know that picture. So good times. You change your name. Solar Labs talked really bad about the All Powers. Okay, Solar Labs. Is that the young white boy channel with the like super flashy thumbnails and stuff like that? Because I don't like that channel. I personally don't like it. It's not for me. His test showed it overheating. Dude, I cannot see that on this little screen. His test showed it overheating often on less than a maximum load. Also, the AC output voltage dropped below 110 volts. Did you experience the same? I do notice that the voltage, even though I haven't tested what this voltage specifically looks like, in my mind, it is a 110 voltage power station. I have a bunch of them, and they all, they give me problems with certain things, specifically my microwave. So yeah, that does sound familiar. I'm sure if it was that channel, I didn't hear it from them, but I did see somebody, I believe, over the course of looking into it. My videos, I'm preparing to make that video soon. I feel like somebody was saying it dropped to like 108 or 107, but that could have been any power station, right? Let's see. This is weird looking. I gotta fix this. Bear with me, por favor. Oh, I go full screen. Fancy. I do not want to see my face that big, but these letters is nice. I can't do that because I gotta be able to see the comments. Can I adjust the width here? Can I pop the chat out? That would be nice. I don't think I can. Fair enough. So without getting into the particulars too much, Finney the kid, it could have just been that the EcoFlow. Well, I wouldn't jump to conclusions. If the 25 watts is coming in, maybe you had a load on it that was balancing it out, which is why it wasn't charging. That could be the case. I don't know. I feel like charge it over 12 volt, see what happens. What happened, Mama? My TV died. Oh no. I feel like I knew that was gonna happen. Here, Ivan, hook her up with this one. I'm gonna give her the Ctech since I need to burn some power out of it. My eldest son, please pause and see if this will work to power Adele's situation.
Okay.
It's heavy.
It will.
The outlet is the problem. The outlet may be weird depending on how the TV works. Okay. I shut off all loads. Fair enough. Making it make sense. What's happening? Yeah, I have two profiles and randomly switch between the two. Oh, you got that troll profile. You be out here trolling folks or watching that questionable content. Tell the truth. Just keep it a buck. Don't keep it a buck. I don't want to know. With the price of power stations coming down, is it worth it buying LiFePo batteries and all the other equipment to make it work? Yes. Yes. It is worth it. Especially with the simplicity of all-in-ones. It is absolutely worth it. Hold on, Mama. Hey, son, I need you to press the power button for her on the Xbox. The controller's now doing it.
You know what? Hey, Josiah, can you let me know?
Where were we? So, another thing is, for me, 240 is not an option at the moment. And I had to think about it while I was doing things because my only... Hey, calm down. You hear me? I only have one 240 volt outlet. So even if I got a power station that could do 240, it still doesn't help me with my stove. And I don't know that I would want my stove to run off a power station. Of course, with all this solar that I have, if I have the surplus, then I would use it. But I would need another means by which to get power into my house. And I only have that one port. So that port could work to energize both sides of my panel at the same time. But I still couldn't run my stove unless I had an electrician come out here and give me another outlet or some type of situation. But I don't think I didn't miss it. I mean, so without having 240 available to me, sometimes I did have to use the stove. Let me go ahead and get into my electric bill real quick. I did have to use the stove. So what I would do, and this is something that I'm going to share, but it's very indicative of my comfort level with working with these cables, because what I found is I intentionally try not to take shortcuts with these cables because they are dangerous. So what I would do is I would turn everything off. So I'd power off. I would. Is he still playing as daddy? Y'all could be honest too. If the background noise is a bit much, just let me know, and we're gonna have to make adjustments. It may not be fun, but tell me, because I want the audio experience to be ideal. And I'm getting to the point where I'm getting a little like, oh, y'all might have to go. Mama, what do you need? You can't watch nothing. Hey, pause your situation and get her right.
What do you want? Which game?
Just go to the list of games. Don't leave her stuck there. Show her what she has available to her and get her together. Thank you. So what I would do is I would take my house off grid and put it on grid for the hour or so that I had to cook. And interestingly enough, that power usage, when I go back and look at it, I'm 2 days behind, I believe. It will be like 700 watts, 900 watts, 800 watts. It didn't even register a kilowatt hour. So that was interesting to see how much power my stove used. And what I did was, when I switched it back over, this is the one time I took some liberty, because it was me. I was here alone, and not that I'm worried about my wife messing with things or any of these kids messing with things, but it was gonna be so short that what I did was I turned the power station's power off. Right, walk with me here, and then I went over to my circuit breaker panel box and I turned off every every circuit breaker, because what happens is, once you plug in, even if the circuit breaker is not engaged, you plug in a power station, that circuit, wherever you plug it in the house, whatever circuit it's on, that circuit can become live on an island. I'm not saying that this is always the case. I'm saying that that's how I feel like it should work, because that's what a breaker does. It breaks the circuit or whatever. Forgive me if I'm using the wrong language here, but the concept is very simple. These outlets in your house, these light switches in your house, they're on separate circuits, hence they are isolated. So if I have all 1 through 12 off and I come and I plug into 9, then everything on 9 is going to be energized. And then I could keep all other 12 in. And if 9 is out or off or disconnected, then nothing else will get power until I push 9 in. So what I did was I turned all the circuits off, so that served two purposes. When I get back on grid, that means none of my wise cameras are coming back on. My fans are not coming back on. Anything that's plugged into power is not coming back on. And then I turned my stove back on so I could cook, get busy, and get up out of there. What that enabled me to do also is I could be sure that the power station is off, right? And then those circuits, because they are off, they're not pushing power back into the power station. I did do that. I wouldn't advise anybody to do that, but I did it. I'm sharing my experience. I wouldn't do that if I were you. Again, how I started this was, it speaks to my comfort level with the cables. So that's what I did. And it was convenient. I didn't do that every day. I had to cook. Sometimes I just pulled the wires out, took it off, and then when I was done, I went back and I plugged the wires back in. Stop calling him. You hear me? I feel like he's not going to be able to solve that problem for you. Let me see what my notes said about this, because I want to make sure I covered what I wanted to cover. No, don't call me either. So I didn't always have to use the stove. The air fryer and the microwave got me by just fine for most things. So that was cool. I didn't have any problems being off the grid as it relates to cooking. And when I did cook, it used less than a kilowatt hour. My kilowatt rate is probably about 18 cents or so. It's going up, as I'm sure everybody has, which sucks. But when electricity goes up, it makes solar more valuable, right? Just it's built in. So that's interesting. I'm gonna get to comments in a little bit. And then we have so overnight was the most interesting piece, right? That's the biggest issue with being off grid. When you have the amount of solar that I do in these little zones that I do, I don't have a problem during the daytime. The issues came kinda when it was nighttime. All right, let's see here. I'm giving y'all 5 more minutes on your Xbox, and then y'all could go do y'all phones upstairs.
Okay, good. Okay.
You hear me?
Yeah.
The nighttime was very, very interesting. So remember, I have the Duran and the Alcatel 2000 watt hour devices. My loads on those devices are minimal at best, 150 watts. I have two sides of my panel. The left side, which I'm gonna call the main thing that covers the most things in my house, and then the right side of my panel is split in half. It covers the microwave and then a few things in the back of my upstairs. So like my kids' room. My kids don't have TVs, they don't have consoles. At most they have a lamp or a clock, and then cameras or whatever we have up there that we use for when we need to use it. So it's not a whole lot of power. I could see my Duran, which powers the right side of my panel, using as little as 20 watts throughout the day. So that power that's coming in is just popping. Now the two freezers being down there, they kind of float between power stations, whatever power station has power. So I was kind of limping along as it relates to that because I had a 200 watt panel give me extremely degraded power. And then I had also my my Boujar V fiberglass panels, the flexible panels, they started giving me issues. So I was a little short, but I made it work. The fridge situation on the AC200P was interesting though, because that 2000 or so watt hours after using things throughout the day, and powering the fridge uses about 100 watts per hour, 100 watt hours or so. So you think about that, even if you have a full AC200P at 2000 watt hours, you take away what 20% for efficiency. It's usually 15, but 20 is easier. That's what 400 watts, 400 watt hours. So that leaves you with 1600. I don't have 1600 watt hours in this device by the end of the day because it's been getting power. And I mean, it was kind of high. I don't know if it was full at the end of the day, at the end of the solar day is what I mean. Because it gets like 600 watts in during its particular power when it's powered throughout the day. It can get anywhere from 300 to 400 watts on a not so good angle. When the angle gets somewhat better, we're looking at 600 watts. But my fridge kept dying at like around 5, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. Now, when my wife is away, I don't sleep particularly well. So I was usually up to be able to come and plug it in. Now, there's a debate that me and Ctech have about the. Turn it down, please. I'm talking to Ivan about the practicality of turning your fridge off and then turning it back on. I am an uninformed pseudo. Well, I shouldn't say that. I have a casually informed opinion that basically food can stay fine if you don't open your fridge for up to 4 hours. That's what the people say. Now, his counter argument is Well, at what temperature does mold and bacteria or whatever start to grow? And you're risking bacteria growing in your food faster the moment, not the moment, but a little shortly after you turn your fridge off. I haven't found what in the world. Hold on one second. I haven't found, I haven't looked thoroughly either for any information that is contrary to my idea. But my fridge dying at 6 o'clock, if I'm getting up at 8 o'clock, even at the latest, to plug the fridge back in, I felt like that was fine. So that was the most interesting piece, the AC200P not having enough power. Now, the interesting thing about that is there's a bug attracted to my light. The interesting thing about that is I have means by which I can dump power into the AC200P. It's not easy, but it works. It's not hard either. I have various batteries. I think I have about 5 or 6 12-volt batteries that I could either charge it with 12-volt, which is a little bit of a pain on the AC200P because you have to switch it every time. You have to switch between solar and 12-volt. That sucks. But you do what you got to do to keep things running. Or I could just battery clamp my inverter to a battery and then charge it at 400 watts via its power adapter. I wasn't really big on doing that for some reason. I think it was because I was just able to make things work. It could have been the tiredness of, holding down the family by myself. And I knew that I had settled into a good groove. And it's like, well, if the fridge turns off at 6 o'clock, I got to be up at 8 anyway. Or I was typically up and I was just able to catch it. So I didn't make a big fuss of it. But it was teaching me how to manage these loads in a situation where the grid would be down or if I'm off grid. So I'm constantly learning and adapting and figuring out what works, what doesn't work. How do I maintain things longer? How do I deploy these smaller power stations to power things that are not necessarily crucial, but beneficial? This bug is going to bug the crap out of me until I kill it. And I really come to realize outside of the off-grid situation, I appreciate these smaller power stations. I may have talked about this before. Hey, dude, you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, chill. Y'all got about 2 more minutes. Actually, y'all pass. Go ahead and shut down the Xboxes for the night, guys. Y'all can have your phones or y'all can take them upstairs. Turn the Xbox off, mama.
What?
Go ahead, put your controller down. Actually, can you bring me the controller and I'll take care of it? I'm not sure. Maybe. Go get your phone and you can have your phone and go upstairs. Listen to me. Go get your phone and take it upstairs. Stop asking silly questions. On that note, let's see what y'all talking about. I see Trump's name. Maybe we'll chat about politics towards the end of the stream. I'd love to talk about it. Yeah, I have 2 profiles. Okay, price. I'm too lazy to switch profiles, but I should. Why should you? Explain, please. You got to give me context because I'm not always looking at the comments. It's distracting you more than me. Okay, thank you. We understand, but it's not distracting. Okay, cool. Thank you. Okay, so your off-grid is turning off the circuit breakers in your house and using your solar generators? No, my off-grid is turning off the circuit breakers in my house and then using my solar generators to energize my entire house with the male-to-male AC cable. So yeah, I mean, that's true. What you're saying is true, but it's missing that one step because I'm not running extension cords and things like that. My outlets, my microwave, my fans, the whole house is energized. You like Duran Duran? Yeah, Duran Duran's a good band. AC 200p idle drain is a problem for a test like this. I don't understand that logic, because while idle drain, this is what kind of boggles my mind, right? Idle drain is something that plays a role when you don't have anything being powered. So if we get down to inverter efficiency, the inverter efficiency is what it is. That cost is baked in. It's just that when you have nothing on it, that cost, it doesn't make sense because you're not running anything. So the idle draw in this situation where I'm actually powering something, it's like, I guess, or maybe I'm missing your point. Maybe you're saying the inefficiency of the inverter is the problem. I don't understand why some inverters idle draw is higher than others. I know it has to do with quality and things like that, but it's like the thing is either 85% efficient or it's not. Idle draw is it's not something I particularly care about. You feel it if you forget to turn this stuff off, for sure. But help me to connect the dots here. Maybe I'm not connecting them. JC, what's happening? All right. So, yeah, hungry like the wolf. Facts. Dang, I gotta stop doing that. Okay, I need to get out of this loop. Get out of here. I use boxes in a generator for 6 hours a day to charge boxes back up because the solar doesn't work with the weather here in VA. My boxes last until 6. Oh, okay, you use power stations in a generator. Gotcha. You can attach additional batteries to a LaCity box from the outside. Interesting. That's interesting. Because I have no electricity at all. That is peculiar. Why did you have electricity? What's the scenario? I need parts. Orient Power. What's happening? We are looking for a partner for distributing Jacopere batteries. I don't know if you're paying attention, Orient Power, but I just talk about solar. I don't distribute products. Now, if you want somebody to make a video and send people to your site, if they're interested in the products, I could do something like that. But I've heard your name before, Orient Power. Thanks for hanging out, stopping by. No distributor action happening though. I set up a smart plug and scheduled it to run for an hour on, then off for 2 hours. It used about the same amount of energy as running all day. That's interesting. You talking about a fridge? When I'm on a politics live stream or commenting, I like to be more spicy, but I don't when I'm on my channel name. That's a fair point. I give this channel 100 likes. Why? Thank you. Eddie T, what's happening? Why? Don't they call that a suicide cable? Yes, I mentioned it, but it's technically an AC to AC power cable. I have a whole live stream, Eddie T, about these suicide cables. You may want to watch it to get my full opinion on these cables and the things that people say about them and how they apply to a lot of people, but they don't apply to everybody. I don't want to get into that. I can, but yeah, it's an interesting thing. Explain why 12-volt batteries, 3,000 watt hours is better than 3,000 watt power stations. That's interesting. Let's come back to that. Now, there are multiple types of idle. Okay, the inverter being on is not the issue. It's that always on screen that uses a lot of power, more than any power stations I've seen. Interesting. So we're going to pin it on the screen. All right, that's fair. Can't cry over idle draw. Why you say that? Electric company took your meter for what? I forget how much, but I bet your fridge will run a few more hours on another. Interesting. That might be worth a test. I'm there. Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. I would just give you a little slice. People like to default to the positions that they've heard over time, and they just adopt the positions without fully thinking that. I think without fully thinking the position through. Electricity is dangerous. Period. We have done things to make electricity more safe, understandably so. But all you have to do is be smart and mindful of what you're doing. Why are electricians able to work with electricity? Because those people are intentional about either learning or being a professional or going to school or whatever to be able to deal with electricity. It is inherently dangerous, but it is manageable. You can handle it. Suicide cables are dangerous, but I think with power stations, that removes a lot of the danger from the situation because power stations just have on and off buttons. With generators, I believe, I wish I could find a video I was watching, and I'm sure I have it saved in a playlist at some point. I think with generators, I believe, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, if you know, I think that with a generator, you have to have your generator on before you start to add loads to it because that generator, because it's a running engine, you may have to slowly ramp up your loads on it. You have to be really intentional, and this is just my casual understanding about how you put the loads on there. With a power station, you don't have to be mindful of that. So essentially, with a generator and a suicide cable or male-to-male cable, that generator and that plug is live, I think. But I feel like even in that situation, you don't have to have the uh the cable plugged into the generator as you power it on. So the whole idea of it being dangerous is true, but you can minimize the danger. All right, that's enough of that. Unless people have more questions, because I'll answer questions. The channel's called Ask I for a reason. So another lesson learned is, and I've talked about this, I've hinted at it a bit even in this live stream, is that running your house off of 110 has its drawbacks because things simply don't operate the way that they would if you were on 120. The main indicators of that, oh, let me tell you something about the Duran Duran. The Duran Duran, when it's running my house, my lights flicker. But because the Duran Duran only runs the right side of my panel, I only see it in my upstairs bathroom and in my son's room. But the lights flicker. It annoys me, but I deal with it because I'm running off of electricity that I got from the sun. And the reason, a complication that I didn't have that I could have gotten around was because my wife wasn't here, I probably could have just used my All Powers R1500 to power that load and then saw that hopefully the lights wouldn't blink. I need to test that. That's actually a good point. I'm gonna test that and see if the light, because nothing blinks. The Alcatel doesn't blink, but it's something about that Duran Duran that makes the lights flicker. So my night light that's in the bathroom would be flickering, and my son's lamp would flicker a little bit. And the crazy part is I don't think it always flickers. So I don't know if there's something on the circuit during the like 8 to 11 time frame that makes the lights flicker. I'm not sure, but it's an interesting thing. So 110 sucks. But because my wife wasn't here, I could have did the All Powers R1500 because I know that randomly I won't be coming downstairs to microwave anything. And I'm not saying that she would, but I could just not do it. I could not come downstairs and microwave something. Or actually the microwave will run. So the microwave is not a good example. So the All Powers will actually be fine. It will be fine. It's not the most, it's half the watt hour capacity. The big thing that the All Powers can't do is my dryer. The All Powers can't do my dryer, and the Oops can't do my dryer. Sometimes they all struggle with it. But what I found, this is another lesson that I learned, not necessarily doing being off grid, but what I found is that you have to kind of distribute the clothes in the dryer so that it's all not weighted in the middle. So you kind of put it all around, and that allows the whatever they call the thing is. I know there's a name for that basket. That allows it to spin more easily and get going. And then once it gets going, then it's fine. It only uses like about 500 watts or something like that. So that's interesting. So overall, it was a pleasurable experience to not have any charges. I wanted to get into my account. Let me do that. To not have any charges related to that time. And it saves me anywhere from $2 to $4 or $5 a day. Which I don't know how y'all take it. It's not a lot in technical terms, but the only reason why it saves me from $2 to $5 a day is because I have so much stuff that's running off of solar to begin with. It would typically save me around $5 to $6 a day if I had two deep freezers and a fridge and my internet and whatever else, like my work situation. I typically put my kids' gaming session on a power station. I run fans from power stations. I run lamps from power stations whenever I can. So I really reduced my power usage down to its lowest common denominator or its lowest amount, just with how I have my zones around the house powering things. Let's see here. Let me be able to share this in a second so you guys can kind of see. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it was about 7 days. All right, give me 1 second. Let's see. What's up, Sleeper? Appreciate seeing your name. I know it's late over there. I've seen inverters that have settings for the screen. Interesting. I'm not sure what that is pointing to. I forgot how much, but I bet. Oh, okay, we got that. Electricians always treat things like they are alive, even if they aren't. Being an electrician's apprentice, I learned that's what saves you. Yeah, absolutely. And people make those points on these videos in these comment sections all the time. But you have the majority of people subscribe to a certain position, and they'll fight to the death over that position. Oh, it could kill a lineman. And it's just like, it could. Probably not, but it's possible. In theory, maybe. Because eventually you will forget, and that habit of treating things like they are on will save you that time you forgot to turn something off. Facts. Absolutely. I remember when you bought your first solar panel for $50. And look at how far you facts. Yeah, absolutely. My first solar panel wasn't even $50. It was a 50 watt, and I paid $20 for it. And I still have that solar panel. I do. My son uses it from time to time. It's almost not worth deploying, but it's hard for me to get rid of and let go of solar panels because that's powers that is power that is generated easily, and it's hard for me to get away from power. You should try that inverter you have. There's usually a potentiometer inside inverters, and you can use that to raise the voltage. Yeah, I'm sure that inverter is going to change things for me as well. I'm about to make the video on that in a second, which is going to involve whether this makes it into the video or not. It's going to involve me connecting it to my TimGot battery. I'm going to try my resistor again, which did not work for me. It is a 100 watt resistor. I don't know. Me and Ctech were talking about resistors because I want to try and reduce the spark because I get sparks often. I've come to live with it. It's not a big deal for me, but as I think things get more complicated and complex, the sparks may get bigger, and it can be a problem. I always kind of get back and pop it on and stuff like that. It could be an issue. I got a deal on an inverter because it was running 106 volts, and the guy didn't know how to fix it, but I did. Yeah, facts. I dig it. My bathroom fan causes my lights to flicker when I'm on battery. That's interesting. The good brother said tight. That may be an unlock for me. It could be because I have a fan running. But yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. I'm gonna have to be mindful of that. I'm gonna have to be very mindful of that. Farmer Marshall, what's happening? I always think about you when I record a live stream when you're not here. I imagine you watching it like out in your yard, like getting busy, just listening to it while getting your farm on. Saving dollars and not pennies. It's coming a long way. Facts. You know what's funny about that? I wish my wife was around because she gives me grief. She has these ebbs and flows where she kind of slips into what some of you guys who are married probably deal with more than I do, which is this like frustration with solar. And she has this frustration with the fridge. And she was like, "Can you just please not have our fridge on solar?" And I haven't had this conversation with her yet, but um, the reason why I pushed so hard to have the fridge on solar, I realized it when she was challenging me to leave it alone, which I'm not going to do. She was challenging me to leave it alone. I was thinking about like, why do I press so hard about it? But it's because when I first got into solar, speaking of that 50-watt panel, JAC, my biggest motivation was to have things that ran all the time be running off solar. That's why my internet, as much as I can have it off of solar on solar, it's on solar because I'm just like I want constant draws to be on solar, and the fridge is a constant draw. So that's why I pushed so hard to have it on solar. And I did the math, and y'all could check my math. So if my power is about 20 cents a kilowatt, and I always doubt my math, but I did it a couple times. I think I save about $14 a month if I power my fridge from solar all the time. Because if it's using 100, let's just call it 100 watt hours an hour, 24 hours a day, that's what 2.4 kilowatt hours. And that's 2.4 kilowatt hours times 30, which is what, 60 and some change? Like 70, 72. 72 kilowatt hours at 20 cents. I don't know what that is off the top of my head, but it's $7. Yeah, it's still like 72 kilowatt hours at 20 cents. That has to come out to be about seven, then double the seven, because that's 10%, about $14. I don't know. I went to New Orleans public school, so don't cut me some slack here, as they say. All right, all right, all right. Shore connection outside to the fuse box, and a plug inside that also goes to the fuse box from the inverter only. In use at a time. I'm not sure what's going on there. A what meter? Generator outside. Okay. Grand acres. A potentiometer. Okay, yeah. Is a variable resistor. Boom. There you go. Well, I think Grand Acres, the simplest way to say it is the potentiometer. Think about the root word, which is potential. It just tells the device how much power to put out. That's how I think about it. And I'm not saying that that's the definition, but that's how my brain thinks about it. I made 33 kilowatts of solar today. That's $4.62. There you go. Boom. just goes, think it through and be smart. Yep, pretty much. Eddie T did the math. Thanks, Eddie T. It's $14. Appreciate that. I have to go. We're having a thunderstorm with the rain and it's messing with the internet. Oh man, that sucks. But it be like that sometimes. So a couple other things. Let me see. And then, okay. So lessons learned, right? Back to that for a little bit. I believe I even washed and dried clothes while we were on solar. I didn't hold back. I had the power, um, and ultimately, the whole situation was fun. I enjoyed doing it. I couldn't, because I was by myself, I couldn't make some of the tweaks and things that I wanted to make to kind of like fine tune the system. I'm always like fine tuning my system, not effectively either. I think sometimes because I have so much, it messes me up um, in terms of focusing on a few things. Because I have a lot, I don't necessarily focus on how to effectively use it. Like sometimes I go down and my R power is 1500. Let's just say this. I have a power station in my garage that is hooked up to a 200-watt array. It's two Renogy 100-watt panels in parallel. And sometimes I go down there and that power station is full because it's not a primary power station. It doesn't always get used. So I think, and I talked about this in the live stream a minute ago. It may have even been the last live stream where I talked about my solar panel, my solar power pains. It gets to be taxing all the micromanaging I have to do. So I'm not necessarily trying to get out of micromanaging, but it's starting to weigh on me. That was the subject of that whole live stream. So sometimes I don't manage things as much as I could. So I'll have like a couple power stations, which are bonus power stations, and they'll be in there and they'll be full. And then I'll have like some of my mainstay power stations. They'll have my two deep freezers on them, when my deep freezers could technically be on those bonus power stations because I have extension cords that are down in the garage and so on and so forth. Another thing that I noticed is that because I can generate so much power during the day and I use so little power, my power stations still get full really fast. I just don't. So now that's another aspect of having to manage. And I'll tell you something that sucks: having power stations that don't have Wi-Fi connectivity so that I can look in and see what they're doing. Because if in real life, let's think about the all power situation, right? The all powers has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. It has an 1800-watt situation going on. It has let's call it like 1150 watt hours, so it gets full really fast. The all powers is actually an excellent candidate for power uh for being a power source for my home, because I can use that power, monitor that power from the phone, plug in power stations around the house. But I can't manage that when there's two adults in the house, because the minute here's another thing. My wife is in the living room. The minute my wife is around, there's I have to account for another person who has their own drive and things that they want to do. So if this is another thing to keep in mind. That's what I'm trying to get with this. I'm running think about running your entire house from essentially like one wall outlet. So your capacity to trip a device is very high, because that's why we have these different breakers, because they can all handle 15 amps or 20 amps, typically 15 amps. But I have two sockets to power my whole house, and they each can provide 15 amps. So that's a lot to manage. So in a situation where I have my all powers, which has Wi-Fi connectivity, the ability for me to peek in on it to see how much power it's producing, and then to also start distributing that power. The good thing is I don't have to run down there to the basement to plug in stuff. I can plug in stuff anywhere that's on that particular line or side of the panel that has power. So if my Pecron needs power, or my AC50B needs power, and my all powers, because I can monitor it through the app. I can see that it's approaching full. It's getting 400 watts of power and it's at 85%. All right, plug the EcoFlow and the AC50B in there. All right, plug in a battery charger that takes 300 watts, right? That is super convenient to me. So having power stations that are more capable but with less functionality, i.e., no Wi-Fi, no Bluetooth connectivity. I can't monitor it except for going down there to put eyes on it. It becomes a thing. So I found myself a lot of the times over the weekend, over that span of days, which was not a weekend, having full power stations and having to run around and to try to help take some more of that power in because of all of this this power that I have available to be, with these smaller power stations. Now, here's another thing kind of unrelated. What I'm finding is that because I have quite a few bigger power stations, and I'm so used to managing smaller power stations, like smaller, more capable power stations, but with less battery capacity. For example, the EcoFlow River 2 Max. It can take in up to 200 watts of solar, I believe, but it can do a 60-volt panel. So if I have a 300-watt panel, but only gives me 175, 180, 190, 210, I could put that on an EcoFlow. But that's 200, that's real 200 watts of power going into an EcoFlow, which is not the same as putting a 200-watt panel, which is what we would typically do, right? If a thing can take in 200 watts of solar, you buy a 200-watt panel, and then you get 150, 160, 140, 130, 125. So that's a manageable situation. But throwing a 300-watt, 40-volt panel on an EcoFlow, that 300 watts has the potential to produce 1.5 kilowatt hours over the day, just in general. It's a 500 watt hour device. So I'm so used to having more capable power stations with less capable batteries, having to power dump into other power stations. So now, because I have all of these smaller power stations, right? I have this habit that I've formed. So now my Pecron may not necessarily get power in it because I got the Vito Man 1500. That's a 1500 watt hour or 1200 watt hour capacity battery. I got the Oops 1800, which is a 1500 watt hour capacity battery. So I have these zones that used to be a strain to get power in and then have to dump out. They're now able to take in the majority of the power and even still get full in some instances. But what that does is it leaves my smaller power stations without being power dumped into. And what that leads me to do, honestly, is to deploy like these 200 watt panels. So I have a bunch of 100 watt panels. That's why I'm giving one away now. It leads me to deploy these 100 watt panels to get power into these smaller power stations because I actually use them. And when they don't have power in it, I miss using them. For example, it's right behind me and it's empty. Holy moly. What is this? It just says power station on it. My Browie 5000. I'm Browie 5000 B. I use this a lot on a 100 watt panel with its 30 watt built-in panel, and it runs my lamp that provides light to my den, which is this area that I'm in, and my kitchen, which is right over here. It kind of sits right in the middle, the line between the floor of the kitchen and the den, and it provides light. So when that one doesn't have power, that one's a bad example because it does get put outside to get solar into it. But if it was just a normal power station that's in my rotation, like something like the Energizer P320, if that doesn't have power, then that lamp doesn't necessarily get turned on. And sure, I could plug it right here into the AC200P, but the AC200P is responsible for running my fridge. So I do it, but I'm used to deploying these smaller power stations around the house. When the Oops 600 doesn't have power in it, I'm used to using that to run my kid's fan over the night. So that if I'm on solar power, if the solar power cuts off at 7 in the morning, 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, my kids don't feel that impact. I'm using the EB70, right? Which can take in up to 200 watts of solar, but it's through an 8 millimeter barrel connection. It has an 8 input limit. I'm using that to run the fan in my bedroom so that if the power goes out or something, the fan situation is able to keep going. So I like deploying these smaller power stations because I'm getting these bigger ones, which are harder to move around the house. That's the thing. I'm going somewhere with this. They're harder to move around the house. So the Yolannis 1600 SAPY, SAPY, that one typically won't float up here to the main floor because it's down in the basement. So it's like, I'm missing out on my smaller power stations. I really dig them. And I hate to see them not being charged, but it is what it is. I'd rather have bigger power stations that I don't have to manage, that I know can sit for a couple days, literally just a couple days, and take in that sun, and I don't have to run down there and power dump. But then it leaves out my smaller power stations without any power going into them. And this is all a part of me just trying to manage, which is again why I'm giving away some stuff and kind of priming myself for what am I going to depart with, because I got a shade stopper panel that I need to do a video on. That one's a bifold, I believe, but that's another 100 watt panel. I have the video I just did one on the EcoSonic or whatever it is. That's another 100 watt panel. But I have my tried and true Big Blue that's out there every day, rain, sleet, snow. It's out there. I have my Elicanta that has been out there for years now. I think it's at least been 18 months to 2 years that thing has just been outside. It just sits on my banister charging up my Loom Pal, because they both terminate in 5521, and the Loom Pal seems to have 2 MPPTs in it. So it works. And the part of the reason why those panels get used is because the Loom Pal fits perfectly in that scenario. It can take in 2 separate power sources, actually 3. You could do USB-C. So I could technically set up 3 panels. I could do Elicanta 5521, Big Blue MC4 to 5521. It natively dead ends in 5525 because its power station is 5525. And then I could take my Yargo, which has a 60 watt port on it, and I could just go directly from the Yargo into the Loom Pal. And to be honest with you, I would do that if the Loom Pal was LiFePo, but it's not LiFePo. So it's like, I'm not pressed to constantly be filling that up and then depleting it, filling that up and then depleting it. Now, I'm not going to stop using it, but I still am mindful of non-LFP power stations, hammering those or not hammering them as much. All right. What's left of Helene will come through here on Friday. All power stations will be charged beforehand in case we lose power. Facts. You should see if Orient Power would give you a wall mount battery and an all-in-one. They've done that for the Kelly's Country Life. And yeah, if they're still around, hey, Orient Power. Boom, right there. I'll definitely make a more city-focused video. I know Kelly's Country, man, their subs are off the chain. Okay. You may need to turn down the charging rate of your larger power stations so you can charge them from weaker power stations. Yeah, that's the thing, Joe. My power station collection is an aging one. I don't have newer big power stations. I don't have that option. I think I talked about that maybe on the last live stream and talking about my issues with these power stations and managing them. I discussed that in great detail. I give you an example. The Alcatel is a fast charging power station. I can't turn it down. Whereas like the newer Alcatel, I believe you can set it to charge slower than what it is. So yeah, I'm with you. I make it work where I can. That's why I like the AC200P so much. But it's been a good 18 to 24 months of Bluetti releasing power stations that now have the ability to adjust the charging. So whereas it was a benefit to me when I first got it, when me and Jason Noy got together and figured something out, because it had a slower charger, I saw that as a plus. But now, as I get more and more into the future and seeing what newer power stations are out there, it's a kind of a con. Because if I have a situation where I'm running my air conditioner and I'm getting 700 watts of solar from my AC, from my solar for my AC, and then I can only bring in 400 watts from my, actually, I'll give you a real world example. When my, from the being off grid, when my AC 200p runs out of power, it won't turn back on until it hits 5%. And it's slower to get to 5% with 400 watts against a 2000 watt hour battery. So in that situation, if I could fast charge, turn it on, or even just a little bit more charge, get it up to like 800 watts to get my refrigerator back on, then I wouldn't have to plug my refrigerator into the wall. I could just wait for it to get some power back up. Good money. But with this 300, 400 watt charger, I feel the slowness. The slowness is a benefit to me, but it's starting to feel more like a weakness now as my my power needs change. Let's see. Be right back. Michael, what's happening? Good to see you. Send me that shipping label so I can send you the charge enhancers. Yeah, I've been thinking about that every day. And that should let you charge the AC 200p from a smaller power station. Okay, what you talking about, Willis? What would that do? That takes solar input at a certain voltage. Does the voltage still have to be what's the voltage range on the charge enhancer? If it's 12 to like whatever it is, then that would be interesting, like 12 to 60 or 12 to 150. I think it maxes out at 500. It might be 12 to 60. How is that supposed to let me charge from a smaller power station? Also, I talked to Pecron. Pecron sent me their joint, and I'm excited about this one. It's the listen, they talk about this thing as a battery thing for your alternator and stuff like that. Ever since I saw it, I thought battery. I was glad that Jason Oy did the test for the battery, but people think of this as an alternator charger, and that's fine. It'll work. But I think of this as a way to charge my solar power stations from a battery more easily. So yeah, what I want to try and do, and I'm not going to customize this situation. What I need to try and do is figure out a way to go battery clamp, to go ringlet, to maybe another ringlet to battery clamp. That's what I need. But yeah, I'm excited about this. The only thing that both Ctech being willing to send me the DC charge enhancer and the Pecron thing does is it messes me up, because y'all know I just put out the video about moving the AC 200p upstairs, and that video was from quite a few months ago. There's a journey that I'm still taking you guys on with my videos. What time is it? Okay, yeah, we'll wrap this up soon. I don't want to be 2 hours deep. That situation is gonna, because the AC 200p is a 120 volt inverter, that situation is gonna cause me to put it back downstairs, because I can't have the Pecron MC4 to battery clamp with a big old battery just sitting in the floor. I mean, I could. I do put batteries here, but I don't rely upon batteries all throughout the day. But shoot, I mean, if I'm keeping it a buck, y'all, there's a battery sitting here right now. I love these little small mini batteries, man. I love them. The problem that I find with the batteries is it's tough to make consistent content on them. Because at the end of the day, I mean, it's just a battery. I'm not cracking them open to see if the numbers are fair. So I'm just talking about the batteries in real world use, which I'm gonna figure a way to talk about. But it's a It's not a challenge. It's a mental exercise. So the main thing that the Pecron thing does for me is I got this big old Timgot battery, which is 3,000 watt hour capacity. It's actually closer to like 35. Um, so I can use that to supplement power. That thing is a beast. The only thing that has been slowing me down is I don't have an easy way to charge it. But you think about this. I got the Timgot battery, right? Which I can now use with the Pecron dip, which I'm so ecstatic to have because it gives me options. But then I also got the Bourgeois V inverter. So I can use the Timgot with the Bourgeois V inverter, and then that gives me another 120 situation, whereas like I only have one 120 output. So it's almost better to do the Timgot with the joint with the inverter because that gives me 122,000 watts. Walk with me. Now that goes back to the point of this Pecron still is fine because I got 5 batteries. I actually got sent a battery today. I told the company, like, man, I just don't have the capacity to do another battery video right now. And I was like, I may need like 8 to 12 weeks on this joint. If you want to send it out, you can, and they sent it out. It's one Will did Solar Will did a video on. I think it's the Seiko or something like that. But anyway, I have batteries that I could hook the Pecron up to, but because the Pecron is a ringlet situation, it'll be annoying to have to always take the ringlet joints off and then put them back on another battery to get that power into that power station. And if this dip is giving out 400 watts, I mean, it's only going to last like 2.5 hours. So then after 2.5 hours, which if I'm being honest, keep in mind my low power draw, that's enough to get me through the night. That's an extra 1,200 and something watt hours. That's fine. When my battery on the power station should have good power in it. Let's just say generously I'm using 200 watts over the night, because if somebody got a fan running and my wife has a fan running, I typically want to have those on separate power stations, but let's just say I don't. If I got, I mean, I don't want to math in terms of like calculating watt hours and how much you would need and stuff like that. It's just not that serious for me right now. But I think I could get through the night a lot better getting 400 watts into a battery. Also, the fan on the Pecron is a little bit annoying in that it's intermittent. And I think it's kind of loud as well. So I need to put that down in the basement. I can't just have that sitting here next to me in my main joint. I just wouldn't. That wouldn't be a good look. I do want to show y'all something. So let's present, share a screen. Let me make sure nope, I am not logged in anymore. Let's get that stuff out of here. Let's get back into this. While I do this, overall, I did say that the being off grid was a pleasurable experience. It's also empowering to know that even under those circumstances, I was probably doing a little bit more than what I would do if like stuff got sticky. Because to be honest with you, man, if stuff got sticky, I don't know if I would have all of these panels out in the yard. I'd probably have like my 400 and maybe another big panel or 2. And then I might have to entertain just bringing stuff in at night because I don't want my stuff to walk away. But even still, in a casual situation, like, a tree fell down on the wire and, I'm working from home, internet's good, fridge is good, freezers are good, could even run the fan, could watch some TV and all of that jazz just fine. Can even wash clothes if I needed to. It's like life will go on for me in that situation. I'm not going to be, and that's a fantastic feeling. So, script. Let's see here. What am I doing? Share, window, boom, wall. Let's bring it up. This right here. Let's see here. This area right here is where I was off grid, and you could see the difference between when I'm on grid is not that great because most things are running off of solar. This particular night, I believe, was a night that was hotter, and we needed to use our air conditioner. So you can see that joker cost me $8, and I was trying really hard to balance this out, and I think I did pretty good. They say my average cost is about $2.18. I could live with that, so I balanced that out pretty well. So let's actually take a look at this usage day. So you got, yeah, that was definitely an air conditioner night. 3.24 kilowatt hours. That's a couple air conditioners running. And then once I think things normalize, then I look at about maybe that was 3 air conditioners running, and then still 3, and then I think we kind of got down to 2 because everybody's upstairs. I don't know. Interestingly enough, but you get the point. So you got 450 watts right here. This is about noon, 145, 145. This is the highest day. So I use about $7 worth of energy on this day. This is a more typical day. You can't pay attention to the bars because the bars change with the height. They're like dynamic. So it's not going to just stick at like 5 kilowatt hours the whole day. If you max out at 3, if you max out at 2, the bars are going to adjust. And then let's stop here for a second and then go back to this because you can see the cost. So this particular power was 16 cents, 15 cents, I believe, 27. At a high point, it was 53 cents. I'm glad they give me all this information. Then I want to make it into September. You can see how it shifted. This is 2.4 is the height. And then throughout the night, we're probably using just 2 window air conditioners. Maybe me and my wife have a fan in the window because it is cooler now. As people are waking up, ACs are being turned off. You're using 890, 860, 500. And then we get into my base load, 270, 150, 160, 180, 210, 440. Again, 260, 350, 5 something, those morning hours. And then this stuff right here is cooking. This is our cooking spikes. Right here, we barely even used a kilowatt. So we only used 700 watts during the night. 300, 210, 70. It's crazy. 60, 140. That's bananas. And then right around here is where we're going to get off the grid in a second. Yeah, even here, we barely cracked 500 watt hours. And that was probably doing some type of cooking. Man, it took me a lot longer to get here. Holy moly. Look at that. 170. Holy. Oh, you can see the temperature too overlay. 50 degrees outside. So you know we ain't need no ACs. We put them fans in the window and we rocked out. And so it begins. September 11th. Yeah, I think it was Friday. No, Wednesday. No power. None your business. None. And then right here, I had to cook and I used 530 watts. So it was probably me making some like grilled cheeses or something crazy like that. Another 0 usage day outside of cooking, 260, 400. So my stove over that short period of time, it doesn't even use a whole lot of power to get it done. That's the beautiful thing about the air fryer and the microwave as well. They're only on for a few minutes. So the power usage is not a lot. 940, 380. I think I had to cook like a couple things there. And then you can kind of see when the missus comes back. Things normalize on Tuesday. and then we get back. And it also started to rain and stuff like that. So it was man. We go back to the bill view, and then you can see. I'll show the current. That was a $1.42 day, nothing, 11 cents, 14 cents, 0, 29, 42. Just think if I could do that all the time, that'd be wild. Right now, let's see what we're trending at. The highest day today was about $2. 156, 154, 192. Yeah, I like these $2 days. If you guys remember, man, I was happy to get down to like $3 days and $4 days because I think we would have some higher, like $5 to $6 days. That was rare, but we did have them. All right, see what y'all snapping and trapping about. That is crazy. That's bananas. Let me see. What's the average loss rate on USB charging? Probably about 5 to 6%. So in some of my videos, I have shown situations where one power station was giving out 76 watts, and the other one was taking in 70. So, whatever that percentage is. Oh, it takes any DC input. That's actually very convenient. So let me think about that for a second, because I believe it is XT90, which the power station itself is XT90. So I have a 12 volt to XT90 cable. So I could essentially charge with DC. That's actually very promising. I could charge with DC overnight by just going 12 volt lighter socket of any power station into XT90 into the DC charge enhancer, which goes into the AC port, right? And that's 12 volt charging, which hopefully is more efficient, but probably not, because I think that's going to boost. Is it going to boost it from 12 to like 59 volts because the AC port has to take 59 volts? That's actually interesting. I feel like my brain went to a weird place. A 12 volt socket into the charge enhancer probably won't work because it's not a solar panel. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ctech. That's going to be interesting to test, though, for sure. I saw that on Instagram, Sharfarmaid. It's supposed to let you charge the power station like in your car while camping. The whole thing that's going to matter to me is the price and whether or not it's MC4 or some kind of proprietary foolishness. Somebody asked a question way up top, and I want to answer that because it was interesting. 3,000 watt hours of battery versus power station. I want to remember that. I think Practical Gadgeteer is, Tennessee. Maybe somewhere on the East Coast. That is crazy. You use a ton of power. A friend of mine, he's kind of like starting to feel the impact of how much power he's using. I actually sent him a kilowatt style device. I just wanted to remove that hurdle from him having a situation where he has to wonder how much power his stuff uses. So it was like $20 well spent. I can't wait till he starts like figuring that stuff out and experimenting with it. Oh, you're back in GA. Okay, I'm back in GA. Oh, you're back. And then you're in Tennessee. Gotcha. And then Grand Acres, you're in Tennessee. I get it. We have a sun oven. I was in South Africa this summer. Amazing how many homes have panels with batteries and inverters. Work well, I bet. That's dope. I wish it was content creators who made stuff about it. A lot of content creators, they just focus on how they installed it. And I very seldom care about the install itself. I want to see what your life is like because of the solar. That's what I'm most interested in because I'm a solar enthusiast. I'm not a DIY guy and all of that jazz. I like the impact that solar has on people's lives, but very few people make compelling content because it's kind of it's a balancing act to you. It's kind of hard to make good content about just powering stuff off of solar. It's not all that interesting. It's you're just powering stuff off of solar. But I think as you go through the process of figuring out what works and what doesn't work, like whenever I hear RV cats talk about how they parse out their power and they have to be intentional with um like what they do on certain days because of power and situation. I be wanting to hear that stuff because ultimately I think what's driving me is I'm I'm in a preparedness mindset, not for stuff hit the fan, but just for like stuff happens. So I want to know how you're maximizing your solar power so I can get those tips and tricks so that I can apply it in my situation. And like, oh yeah, you know what? We use a travel iron that only uses 700 watts because our big iron uses 1400 watts. That's the kind of stuff I want to hear from people. But nobody delves into that because I guess they think it's boring or something. And maybe it is, but I'm into it, I suppose. hmm Battery, power station, solar, whatever. Yeah. It has to boost the voltage, so there will be some loss, even though it's DC to DC. You are doing an awesome job being a non-consumer of energy supplier. I appreciate that. I have one of those induction cooktops, adjustable power. I can run it. The Katie's Camp Kitchen did a video that hit me to the new wave induction cooktop. I have been contemplating buying one off the marketplace. I have also been not that I'm being lazy, but I've also lazily been contemplating trying to find contact information for New Wave so they could send me one. But I've been really hesitant to agree to getting more stuff in and initiating that because I have to get caught up on these videos. But the New Wave one is nice because it has a setting for 6, 9, and then like 14. Whereas like the Dux top that I have, it does this 700 0, 800 0, 800 0, 800 0, 1100 0, 1100 0, whatever setting it's on, it fluctuates over and over to maintain that stuff. Whereas like I want that new wave where I could just set it to 600. And if it takes me a little longer, that's fine. But I wanted to be able to work on my Pecron, for example, which has a 1200 watt inverter, or whatever can use 600 watts. That's what I want. So that's my take on it. I like the new wave a little better. I would like to have one to test it, but as far as I could tell from Katie's Camp Kitchen, the new wave has these hard coded numbers in it. And Ctech actually brought it up to me about a couple of weeks ago, maybe. Um, but I was already hip to it, but still, it's a good find. Yeah, that's what we're getting into. They still fluctuate, but you can limit the max wattage. Okay, that's fair. As long as I can limit it, I'm good money. All right, guys. Dang man, that 20 minutes flew by fast. Hour 40. The giveaway. I'm gonna just return back to the old school way of doing it. I'm gonna do a comment picker, and if you're interested in the Ctech, uh, so the two keywords will be Ctech. Oh, this is a 120 watt panel from Rockpals. It also has like USB ports on it, I believe. So if you're interested, don't comment now. What you need to do is you need to go comment on this live stream. After the live stream ends, you need to be a subscriber. If you're interested in the Rockpals, should we do one person can be interested in both? Let's do this. If you're interested in both, leave 2 separate comments. Leave a comment that you're interested in Ctech and leave a comment that you're interested in the Rockpals. And if you win both, then you win both. It just is what it is. I can only ship to the 48 states that are connected. I cannot ship past that. You do have to pay for shipping. You're going to have to send me some coin in PayPal or CashApp or something like that. The power station should probably average about $25 or something like that. The panel, I'll have to find a box for it. That'll be a little bit less. I'm pretty sure this thing has a little junction box in here. Yeah, it does. I do not have a video on this Rockpals joint because it wasn't given to me. I purchased it from a guy who had a channel and he was selling it. So this is something that I spent United States currency on. So yeah, somebody can have it. And then Grant Acres, if you're still around, have you looked into the marketplace for panels? Did you get into that yet? I meant to text you about that because I was curious. So comment Rockpals or Ctech on the video on this live stream after it ends, because I can't search against these live comments, but I can search against comments that are made in the actual video. So just say I'm interested in Ctech. If you're interested in both, leave 2 separate comments, one with the word Ctech in it and one with the word Rockpals in it. So that gives you 2 chances to win. Don't make multiple comments. The comment picker can weed that out, and just don't be a weirdo. I think that's it. And then I'll figure out what to give away next. Any questions about that? I can't imagine. Grand Acres, you're going to get sooner and worse. Holy moly. Alabama. So y'all got a storm coming up that way. Interesting. That sucks. That sucks. All right, folks. That's it. Y'all be beautiful. Thank you for hanging out. Appreciate you guys greatly. Oh, no. Okay, my bad. Hold on. Your question. 3,000 watt hours in a power station versus 3,000 watt hours in a battery. The only thing I can think of is that with a power station, you are definitely going to lose 15% of efficiency. Definitely. With a battery, if you go like ringlet to 12 volt, you'll probably lose maybe like 5 to 7%. And then with an inverter, you can get a really efficient inverter. The inverter might be like 90% efficient. So your efficiency goes up. With a battery, you of course don't have all of the nice things wrapped around it. And even if you go inverter, the inverter doesn't get you USB-C, USB-A, 12 volt sockets and stuff like that. The inverter is typically an all-in-one inverter is what I mean. The all-in-one inverter is typically just going to give you AC. So you miss out on some of the conveniences of a power station, wireless charging, USB ports, 30 amp ports, and these RV ports and stuff like that. So yeah, those are the things that I can think of. I don't know if one's better than the other. I like power stations. I like the ease of use. I like the options, the mobility, the portability. This is kind of the same thing. But it is more, you get more money, you get more watt hour capacity and stuff for your money when you do a battery and an inverter, an all-in-one inverter specifically. And then the all-in-one inverters have better specs than the DIY inverters. I'm sorry, the all-in-one inverters, their charge controllers have better specs than the charge controllers that you typically buy. I found that a lot of the charge controllers that you buy a la carte, this just as limited as the power station. So I don't really see the benefit there. They all max out at like 150. And sure, a lot of them will allow you to do 24 volt, 36 volt, or 46 volt. But once you get into that, man, you get into an interesting place of getting specialized devices. Let me be clear. Going up in voltage in the DIY situation is better because your wire won't be as expensive. Because you won't have as many amps coming through. So yeah, it's better. But then when you go, for example, I saw some batteries on the marketplace. This guy was selling some 26 volt batteries, two of them for like $2,000, which I don't think is much of a deal. That's about how much you would pay for stuff. I mean, you could get a new 5,000 watt Jackaper or whoever EG4 for like $1,100. So he's selling his 5,000 watt 24 volt for about $900. I'm just like, dude, you're tripping. I mean, I get it. They weren't used for long, but that's not a deal. I feel like if I'm buying something off of the marketplace, I'm immediately defaulting to how can I get it for 50% off? And then I work from there. So yeah, hopefully I answered that question. I'm gonna give y'all a little spill on Trump and Harris. Oh man, I really think politically this choice is easy and hard. I'm an independent, by the way. I would more accurately consider myself to be more of a Demopendent. But I don't align with either of these clowns. Let me also give you a disclaimer. I believe in competent representation on both sides. I feel like we need good Republicans and we need good Democrats. Trump to me is not a good Republican. He is, but a lot of Republicans are not good Republicans. Trump is just on the other side of not being a good Republican. He's a non-political, not good Republican. And then we have had political, not good Republicans. That's my take. The Democrats are very similar. I do feel like this country needs some Republican energy. The Democrats are just like, they own some stuff, man. I can't get with it. I love Trump's out of the box nature, but also because he's a normal out of the box person, he seems like kind of crazy and volatile. And you know, the celebrity plays. Like, listen, these pundits gave Barack Obama a hard time for that celebrity aspect. And then they turn around and they rock with Trump, who's an actual celebrity and brings all of the problems that you could have with a celebrity to the office of the president. And I think that that's interesting. It has the potential to be problematic. Kamala is a goofball to me. And the only comfort that I have in her presidency is we've been dealing with these goofball Democrats for the last 4 years and Joe Biden. The Joe Biden Trump situation was very complicated. I was really like struggling with that one because the dude was just like, Biden was just, I was really leaning towards like Republican energy when Biden was in there. Harris being in there is kind of like, to be honest, as a believer in Jesus Christ, it's kind of a big shoulder shrug for me. Whatever we get is what we get, and I think we'll get what we deserve. Let me see what y'all snapping and trapping about. If you're not into the political stuff, then you could leave now. I'm gonna take a few minutes to kind of delve into that. When you say stuff like that, that's weird. That's just weird. They're some of them ascribe to things that you could kind of say are communist adjacent, in that the government has control and the ability to do things that could impact all people. But that's the nature of the government. To say they are communist is to say the government is communist leaning because of the functions that that the government can employ. Whoa. That's crazy. Hey, 2%. You think Goofball is right? You think he's the best pick? 2%. Not any real bad damage. Mostly hit an open field. Okay, cool. Let's see. Seems like DIY is costing more now. I don't keep up with DIY. The Democratic platform has some Marxist infections. Communism failed, but its corpse is still stinking up the place. That's I can kind of understand that. The Constitution specifically disallows most of what the parasites want to do. Give me an example, Joe. You have one that comes to mind? Oh, I miss Radiant. Hey, Radiant, what's happening? Oh, yeah, your pink blended right into 2%'s pink. I'm curious about an example. To be honest, I have a casual understanding of what it means to be a communist. What I think we have, and me and Ctech have talked about this in some capacity, but a very small glimpse. We have examples of communism. We have, and in most cases, bad examples of communism. Again, I'm uninformed about the core principles of communism. Other than my understanding is that communism wants to have like a person in power who controls all the things and does what they want with all the things. So you have no say in what they do. I don't know how much deeper it gets than that. If somebody wanted to define communism, I'm open to that. And I think I don't completely understand what Marxism is, what it means to be a Marxist. But to be honest, I think people throw around these terms because one, they heard them somewhere, and two, things give a glimpse of a hint of, like, Ctech is saying, its corpse still stinks up the place. For example, socialism is another one gets tossed around, but I like what Jon Stewart said in terms of, like, we do deploy democratic socialism in some capacity. So while we want to use the term socialism to kind of poke at the Democrats, I think there is an aspect of how we have deployed socialism that does good. Should it have been done? That's debatable. But I think it was for the good of the people. I think that the problem we run into is maybe doing too much for people without being smart about what we're doing. And I've had conversations like this in depth. We don't want to be smart about anything. We want to be lazy. And that's why a lot of things in this country ultimately go sour. It's like, food stamps, Social Security, Obamacare, one could say, tax cuts for businesses. Those things are all, I think, in some way, if implemented in a thoughtful way, and a reasonably thoughtful way, according to my standards. I know everybody doesn't have the same barometer for what, or the same whatever for what reasonable is. But I think some of those things have merit. Let me see what y'all snapping and chatting about. Oh, I had a filter on. Whoops. He was the best from the beginning. He has skills and knowledge of how to run things and computer. Computer. What? Is struggling to do a debate while listening through her earrings. It's an interesting take, 2%. That's an interesting take. Or you said boing, like going, like the Gong Show. Socialism has never worked. So I don't find that to be a valid argument. My problem is I think that the social programs are promoted by the rich to stop us from having another French Revolution. Maybe they stop things from getting really bad, but they also limit the good. Interesting perspective. That was pretty much an excellent summation. We get what we deserve. God sits high and looks low. Facts. This is an interesting point because I think that it speaks to I think that it speaks to intentions, right? You have a situation where someone could have the intentions of let's do this before these people wild out. But I think that at some point, maybe it starts that way, but at some point it starts to have good intentions versus nefarious intentions. And I think that's the complication with top-down ideals. When I watch The Wire, I often think about the police in that situation as they're almost puppets, not necessarily in a bad way, but they believe in this. Like, it's always funny to me to see the police say that their version of justice is the only version of justice. So, like, now I'm not saying these situations are real, they're definitely fictional. But let's say you have someone who, I think the word they use is unalives. A person unalives someone, and then that person's father wants to take the rap for them. I don't necessarily see an issue with that. I could be naive in having that problem, but I think that because they want their flavor of justice, that person has to pay. And it's like, well, just somebody has to pay. I don't know if that's a good logic or a good representation of my position. But I look at sometimes the representation of what police detectives specifically, what they do, and they believe that they're doing the right thing. But I think that the top down motive could be nefarious or nefarious. And then it just, because we are separate from that top down motive, like let's say socialism is the rich just giving just enough to the poor so that they don't completely wild out and have a true Tea Party type of situation. I'm restating, here, but I think at some point it becomes about the goodness of helping people out who are having a hard time. Excuse me. It's an interesting thing. It's a very interesting thing. I typically use what? Yeah, see, like again, to my other live stream, your opinions are very derogatory. That's unfortunate. Well, the rich want to keep the poor happy enough to keep their heads attached to their shoulders. Is not nefarious. We disagree on those things, so I'm not going to stay there long. But they are also motivated to pull up the ladder behind them. I can't stand the word unalive. This world is so sensitive. Yeah, I only say it not because I'm being sensitive, I say it because I'm being mindful of how YouTube runs their situation. So that's an interesting thing. I think people use it because they don't want that content to be blocked. Again, an example of nobody's doing things smart. They put the words in the filter, and if you use the words that they have in the filter, your content gets demonetized. You know what I mean? Reps take from the poor and the middle class and give to the rich, leaves the debt poor. That is backwards. Republicans? Are you saying Republicans take from the poor and the middle class and give to the rich? I don't know if that's true. How do you quantify that as a position that they're out here taking from the poor? In what capacity? That people agree to work for a wage at a particular job? Like, how are they taking? That's a very interesting statement. The dichotomy to consider is producer versus parasite. Our country did not grow to greatness because it supported parasitism. Interesting. But even in that point, I would inject, we have producers, we have consumers, and we have parasites. And I think that the problem is, how do we identify parasitic behavior and then address it? Because Joe, I think you have a position that would consider things unfairly to be parasitic. And that's why we can't get anywhere in this country, because we don't want to have intellectually honest conversations about how we actually need to move forward. It's all like vitriol and rhetoric and binaries and false binaries, and that's really problematic. Like, it's okay to address parasitic behavior, but we can't call all of it parasitic behavior. Taxes. Okay. So in terms of taxes, I'm just Ive, but the system is certainly weird. That's for sure. But I think it would be unfair to deny that to give people who produce tax breaks is somehow unfair. But I do think that the tax code is overly complicated to benefit the rich. And that's my thing. You know what I mean? It's like we have to, and we're not, but we have to try and go at it a common sensical way. But I think that people who create things and produce it's funny, and produce the people who consume the things, they could stand to use some benefit. But much in that way, I believe that social programs kind of allow people the same thing in a different way. You know what I mean? It's like you could stand to use some benefit. We may not agree on what is capital in that situation, human capital versus like monetary capital or money. Um, yeah, that's interesting. Taxes. And I think the problem is because we're so warped in this country, like the place that we're in, it's very hard for us to get to a middle to have a conversation. It's just so far out there. You can't, it's hard to get there because everybody's picking sides. And that's unfortunate. Let's see here. Yeah, bigger tax cuts and loopholes for sure. The rich of both sides play a game that keeps them rich and screws up the rest of us. That's an interesting perspective. Democrats create programs, Republicans refund them. What do you mean? Defund them. Okay. Republicans mess with welfare, Democrats nimbly, not in my backyard. Okay. That phrase always catches me off guard. Consumers who have earned what they are consuming are not parasites. Politicians who produce nothing of value but consume like there's no tomorrow are parasites. Interesting. The thing to understand is that the rich can make money whether you are cutting taxes or raising taxes. Whether you are cutting taxes or raising taxes and redistributing them, the government pays their companies to do things. The rich can make money whether you are cutting taxes or raising taxes. Isn't that a case for raising taxes? Something that bothers me on this idea of raising taxes. Democrats been wanting to raise taxes for like all my life. I don't think they've ever done it. It almost feels like, do you really want to do this? And I know that there are certain hurdles and things that prevent them from doing so. But I just feel like, man, we gotta get. I almost feel like we gotta get past the whole idea of raising taxes on the rich. We got to figure. Satai, this is one space in which I agree that what is possible has to become reality or feasible. Oh, y'all finished with y'all phones? All right, I should be able to help out with the nighttime routine and finish that. Um, let's see here. Huh?
Can we have cooking now?
Sure. Let me wrap this up and we'll do the cookie.
Okay.
Social programs should be operated by charities and churches, not by money taken by force from those who earn it. I hate to quote Jon Stewart here because I'm not I mean, I respect the guy and I appreciate his wit and his point of view a lot of times, but he made a good point about how relying upon the goodness of charities and churches does not scale in a country this big. It may scale in your community, in your neighborhood. And sure, communities and neighborhoods make up the country, but we still have the same human factor we have in politicians. You say that as that's a whimsical idea until we start talking about charities and churches stealing and not doing what they're supposed to do. So the human factor is ever present. The corruption of the human condition is always present. So to me, while that is ideal, it's an idealistic point of view. I don't see it as a realistic one. I think it's just one that wants to take the money out of the government's hands and put it in this good idea or good ideal of church and charities. I'm not into that one for the reasons that I stated before. Okay, a couple more. The thing to understand is that the rich can make money. Oh, you said that already. Did I miss that?
How long you been?
You know me. I'm 2 hour Ive out here all the time.
Mm-hmm. See JoJo looking at himself. You smile for the camera? Wow. So they can see your smile.
Social programs should be operated by blah, 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 blah. Okay, maybe I went up too far. Or when the government prints money for their programs. Interesting. Rich can get first crack at that money and invest before the inflation hits. They will make money no matter what because they have so many ways. That's a fair point. And I think some of those ways are what people are trying to close off. Greed is at the root of the problems of capitalism. Yeah, I've just been reading, constantly being reminded of this idea of when the Bible says you cannot serve two masters. Somebody made the point that it did not say God and the devil; it said God and money. And I think that that's I don't know how I feel about that point. It feels a little cheap, but I understand the validity of that point and that greed is what pushes people to do a lot of this foul stuff that they do. So that's why it says like God or money. It's unfortunate as many of us end up losing. Facts. Bank loans are worse than social programs. No more taxes for regular folks. We need to tax the so-called large nonprofit universities and hospitals. Interesting point. It doesn't scale, true, but government doesn't scale either. Facts. Scale is the problem. That's a fair. Fair perspective. We need to stop taxing and cut spending. I agree with that 100%. Pennies on the dollar will go to the community. Maybe. Radiant Jasmine said, "Hey, baby." And little guy. No, that's not the point that I was making. Yes, the love of money is the root of all evil. But the Bible is talking about serving two masters in this verse that I'm talking about. And think about that. It's not about having money or needing money or using money. It's about who is your master. Is God your master or is money your master? And think about the ways that some people behave. Money is their master. Especially, I mean, it has gotten more and more corrupt as the days go on, but especially today, we see it getting progressively worse. We see money driving people to do all sorts of things, and it always has, right? But yeah, it's becoming more and more evident, more and more unashamed that people are driven by their love of money. Yeah. And this is why I like having political conversations. Because I think that once we all get past what the folks who tend to speak for us say, and we start talking directly to each other, sure, we have some pain points. Joe got the nicknames, and, LT smoking is against the taxes of the poor. And, but I feel like once we get past that stuff, we could start having more useful conversations about focusing our whatever on the people that we need to focus it on. That's my take. Yeah, absolutely. Who runs your life? All right. This has been fun. Y'all be beautiful. I appreciate you guys very much. And I'm out. I'm going to wait a little bit because Ctech asked me to wait a little bit for the live.